Waking Up From Work podcast. My name's Dave Swillum. Let's get ready to hustle.
All right, welcome back to the Waking Up From Work podcast. You're listening to episode 77 of the podcast tonight. I'm Dave Swillum. Hopefully you know that by now, but you might be a newcomer here. We're happy to have you. This is a podcast where we get to work making work a passion. We're about living that full-time creative life. This episode is going to be another solo episode tonight. We have some more guests on the way, but I have been kind of mixing these in more frequently so that way we can cover topics like more in depth on kind of some stuff that could help or some stuff off my experience or things that are going on. So if you are listening on Instagram, obviously that's happening right now. If you are listening on podcast right now, these come out on Tuesdays at 6 a.m. and like 2 hours from this launching out. So if you're person waking up later in the day and listening to this or later in the week, then 8 a.m. I'm actually going to be sitting in the outskirts of Portland, Maine, closing on the property I've been working to make happen for a long time. And I'm really excited because that's where this podcast is going to get based out of. It's where I'm going to build my home recording studio out of a 1850s barn, build a living quarters for artists and creatives to live there, and an Airbnb. It's just a big little complex thing out in the country, but real close to a city that I love. And I've worked for it for a long time. You probably heard me saying things throughout this. You know, it's taken me time to get to this, and I've never really shared all of it, I don't think, with many people. But you're going to see on Instagram here and probably YouTube, we're going to be kicking off a YouTube channel and actually put out content on what we're up to so you can see what's going on. We're really excited to do that. And I guess my long story short of that is I'm beyond excited right now, but I've kept quiet for a long time on some of it. And so this episode, I wanted to share when it makes sense to share your vision, because I've been doing this for a long time and I've been working on things for a long time. And I've learned a lot throughout that time of when it helped me and when it hurt me to share what I'm trying to work on. And I think, you know, a lot of these episodes when I'm doing a solo episode, I'm kind of talking to 5 years ago me, so that way, you know, things that I wish that I had thought about or done or knew back in that time, because that's all I can really share to. You know, I can't share past what I know. So for those who have been listening to the podcast and know me, I've been working on trying to get a property like this for some time, working on trying to be able to afford it, you know, put the next steps forward and not just freelance out of a space, but really create something that is only mine. And I've been working on that for a while, and it's been up and down of like how it makes sense to share to people. And for those of you that might not know the terminology or like talk or read on things like that, like sharing your vision, like what that means to me is like, what is it that you're trying to do in life? Like what are you trying to do? Are you trying to be a musician full-time, you know, a painter full-time, own a brewery, own whatever, like whatever it is that you're trying to do? Like, what are you trying to do in life? Like, what is it that you're trying to do? That's like your vision. Like, what is it that you're supposed to do with your life, right? I think as creatives, you know, there are so many different challenges in sharing that, where there's right and wrong times to share it, and it's different for every single person. And it's really going to be a self-awareness thing, is every person needs different things. Right before the show, my wife and I were talking and like brainstorming on this, like, because I knew that this was going to be the topic for the night, and talking about it. And we just realized actually just now before the episode that me and her are different with how we like to share our visions, where I usually am more forward on it and I like to talk about it more with people before it's happened, and I get energy from that, whereas she likes to only really share after things have happened for the most part, because she gets too much pressure in a bad way from her. So a lot of this episode is going to be talking about energy and excitement and pressure, and whether they're doing good and bad things for you and how you're getting them. So the first thing I want to talk about before we kind of break that down here is the idea of expressing your vision. Before we talk about positive or negative or when and where and who to share that with, the idea of sharing your vision. So my vision is to live full time, being my own boss, having the income that I need to do all of that in a way where I'm not stressed and I can be a good person to my friends and family. And I want that income to come from, experiences, creating experiences for people in music and audio and content. And that's the basic vision of it. And the rest of it is how I do it. And that's coming up with plans and starting businesses and doing things. And all of that is now more of an action. But your vision is, what is it that you're trying to do? And expressing that vision, I believe, is manifesting it. So saying, and otherwise, me saying that over and over and over again to people, I'm going to buy a property where I'm going to build a recording studio. I'm going to get a property where I have artists that can live on site. I'm going to have a property that I can do. I'm saying that to people because I'm trying to manifest that. I want that thing to become real. So I'm saying manifesting what your vision is can often come from sharing it. So I want to just definitely make sure that with this episode, I do state, before we get into some of the negatives and like where and when to say it, I do state that I do ultimately think that it's a good thing that you share your vision, even if it's just with yourself. Even if you just say it out loud or write it on paper. That's why a lot of people write in the morning before they start their day. I do that. A lot of people write in the morning what their goals are, what they're trying to achieve in certain time frames, because they're trying to manifest that. And a lot of people say what they're trying to do because they're trying to manifest it. And there's a lot of reasons why that happens, and a lot of it's coming from energy, opportunity, and pressures that are being created when you do that. So when you're writing it, it becomes a little bit more real. When you're writing that down, the reason why something can manifest itself, the things that is working from that, why it's not like just like a bullshit thing to do, why it's something that's creating something, is if you're writing down what you're going to do, for whatever reason, that just makes it so you like really made a point to do that. It's like if you're saying it out loud, or you're writing it down, or you're saying it to other people, all of that is more of a statement of like, this is really a thing that's tangible and going to happen, than if you are just thinking it. When you write it down, you say it to other people, or you say it to yourself, that you are creating pressures and energy that will help you move towards that, even if you don't actually achieve the goal or whatever it is that you're trying to do. It's making it more real. It's making people aware. And there's a lot of things that happen from that. One thing is a lot of people start running with you. So it's almost like, I picture like you're out in the you're out in like a field in like Africa with all the wild animals. Just hang with me. And you want to like lead a stampede. Like you all want to run in the same direction. If you can somehow get everyone to run in the same direction with you, it's like there's math to it of like there's less wind friction against you when you're running. If you're behind other ones, there's like ones that help you out to block predators and stuff. It's like you want people to run in your direction, and you can't get them behind something unless you have an idea that you're expressing to them that you're trying to do. So it's like the first thing that you want from manifestation, and the reason why you would say it to other people, the reason why you would write it down or share it with people when you're talking about it, is because you want people to run with you. You want the people that are in the categories of the things that you want to do. That's why I'm telling you people what I want to do, because a lot of people from this community have been awesome. I tell you exactly what I'm up to because a lot of you are awesome and run in the same direction as me. You want people to run with you where they're like telling people about the thing that you're doing because they are excited about it. They spread the word. They get people interested in what you're doing. They might help you. They might have a resource that you didn't know about. All of a sudden things pop up where like people introduce you to people. People show you a resource like right now for like building supplies. People are connecting us with like building supplies people and like people that build certain things and trades and things like that we need in an area we're not in. People are connecting us with people you need that positive thing to happen when you're manifesting it and you're telling people because you need people to run with you. But at the same point, what that's going to do when you're manifesting it is also going to take things, and now pressure is going to come in. Pressure can be a good thing and a bad thing too. Pressure is going to come in and you're going to feel the pressure of like, okay, I have to get this done because I said it to people and I can't let them down. I have pressure because now I wrote it on a certain date, and now like it's like nothing happens when you're setting it on your own self of like what that goal is, but there's just something about it that's irritating. There's like a little bit of discourse that you feel and discontent when you don't do the thing on the date, and it just makes you put a little bit more effort in it. So there's a lot to manifesting something that is real, and I do encourage. So it can take a bunch of forms. You kind of have to think of what form is good for you, but I like all those where I do tell people what I'm trying to do, and we'll talk about how that happens because there's a bunch of different when and where and who that makes sense to do that with. But I do write things in the morning, and I do also say it to myself sometimes and visualize that. So that's trying to make your vision come true by sharing your vision before we get into this conversation here. So when do you share the vision? This is where you come in, because this is so subjective. Just like I was saying with my wife and I being totally different, every one of you is going to be different with when you want to share these things. But you have to think about where along the way, when things are going to happen, when does it make sense to share these things before we even get to who? The beginning, the middle, the end, to put it in a very simple way. Obviously, life is more complex than that. But do you say right at the start, like, one day I'm going to do this, and you haven't even learned how to do it yet? Maybe, one day I'm going to be, say you've never played guitar before. One day I'm going to play guitar in a band, even though you've never played it or taken a lesson yet. Sometimes that's good because it's like, okay, well now I got to take a bunch of lessons, and you just figure it out right, go after what you have to do right away. Sometimes that's good. Sometimes it's bad. Sometimes you don't want to say what you're going to do right off the bat because you haven't even figured out if it's right for you yet. So there's the starting on it. Like, before this has even happened, before I'm even anywhere near that, do I share it yet? In the middle is so tricky because I've been in the middle for years. In the middle is really slippery slope because you can kind of continue the middle for a long period of time. You can hang out in the middle for a long time of getting one goal done, and then all of a sudden the next goal becomes the thing that makes it so that now you're still in the middle, and you have to be careful to not hang out there and express different things when it's the wrong time, because it can stress you out or it can be depressing. So in the middle of it, you kind of have to share the wins and the losses along the way, I feel like, because you are not where you want yet, but it might still be worth sharing. You still might get some good pressure or good energy from it. But, you have to be careful not to share things too many times. There's been years where I've been grinding for a year or two, just day job and just doing stuff. And it's like, there's only a certain amount of times that you can tell people that you're going to do something. And even if you're taking micro actions that are moving towards it, or you have to stay in a grind to get out of some financial things or whatever it is that you're doing, whatever reason why you haven't gotten to that point yet, you have to be careful not to redundantly say it and then bum yourself out and be like, why the fuck am I not there yet? Why am I not there yet? And I'm still saying that I'm going to do that thing. Like, I'm not that thing, And that, even like with this podcast, we're at episode 77. We're 2 years in right now. And I have a podcast right here talking about living full-time creative life. I'm not full-time yet, right? So I have to be careful with that shit all the time. So I talk about, I'm careful to talk about things all the time. But a lot of the process for this was supposed to be shared with the podcast and telling you all how it's going with me so that hopefully it helps you along your way, wherever stage you're at. And I'm okay with that. I'm okay with judging myself on the performance that I have, doing all these goals and doing all these things. But you do have to be careful of how many times you share it in the middle here. And then at the end is like, you need to celebrate that. Like, you have to celebrate the wins. Like, this property that I'm getting, I'm going to have like 6 or 7 months of renovation where I'm not going to do a damn thing inside this property, any of the things that it's going to be meant to do, that I'm not doing the thing yet. But like, I am damn sure I'm going to celebrate when I get the property, because I've tried to get this property for a long time. It's finally happening. It's the right property. It's zoned for this. Like, it's meant for this. It's meant to do this thing that I've wanted as a goal for 15 years. So I'm going to celebrate this end, but it's not the end. And that's where it's really careful of when along the way, you have to celebrate the wins along the way. When you're talking about your vision will obviously change. Your goals will change. But maybe you have one long-term vision of like what it ultimately is, and you have to celebrate the wins along the way. And so to give example, like we announced to you guys, we announced to some other people that we were going to look for a property, but I really didn't do a lot of talking when I was inside looking for that property, because I knew that it could be a couple months or it could be a couple years to find that property. I had no idea how complex it would be to find this property because of zoning, because of licensing, and just location, money, like just everything. There's so many factors in it that I didn't want to tell people I was getting it and give a time frame and do all these things that would put negative pressure on me or negative energy of having conversations with people like, yeah, I don't have it yet, blah, blah, blah. Like, I knew that I didn't want to share it until that. But then when I have it on Tuesday, I've got to celebrate that. So some things are universal in terms of like a vision versus like what you're working on. And we'll get more into what makes sense for like who and what parts of it that you're sharing. But like, for instance, like I'm not going to share my long-term vision with every person I meet, because some people won't understand it. Some people won't give a shit. I know that some people flat out don't give a shit about what I'm trying to get done. So I'm not going to share stuff with them and like waste their time, not going to waste my time. You know, some people just won't get it. Some people don't understand that what I do can even be a full-time living. They have no idea that you can make a full-time living off of audio engineering. They don't even know that exists. And there's obviously some times where it's nice to have that conversation. They're pumped up about it, but there's a ton of times where it's a waste, where it's like they so don't know what it is that you might know or that you're trying to do, that they are not even able to fathom what you're saying. So it's like not worth having the conversation either, right? But there's some things that are universal. So like I'm not going to tell every person I walk into on the street that I'm taking an 1850s barn and renovating it into a recording studio, and that same property is going to have an apartment that I live on and an Airbnb and a living quarters and a content creation. I'm not going to tell people that I'm doing every one of those things to every person that I run into on the street, because it's just not worth doing that, right? But like there might be coworkers at my day job, friends and family. There might be people that they're still going to be excited in like the common talk, and I can get excitement from it and things of just saying I'm moving. I'm moving to another state, or I'm moving into a new house. Like all of that is like a universal thing where like, why not share that? Like you don't have to be so secretive that you're not sharing anything, but like maybe you don't have to go all the way to share that. It's tough to do an episode like this because it's so based on like who you are and like what pieces of you want to share and like where you feed off of energy or not. Like if it's a good thing for you or it's a bad thing, because it can be either depending on who you are. So there's certain things that can be like moving or big life changes. There are things that you can share with just about anyone. And then that's where it's going to make sense to know your audience. So my wife said, gauge the room and gauge yourself. So like gauge the room is like, who is the audience you're in front of right now? Like, how are they going to perceive what you're trying to do in life, right? Are they going to be the people that don't give a shit? Are they going to be the people that don't understand so much so that it's not going to be worth explaining to them? Are they people that totally get it? Are they the people that are in the middle that like kind of get what you're doing and like are interested, that do want to hear about it, but like they might not know all the way? Like, who are the people that you are with? What's the environment that you're in? Are you at like a holiday party where people do want to catch up and like, you know, quarterly, it's been a long time since they talked about it. Like, where are you and who are you with of like what makes sense, right? Everyone's different and everyone's going to give you different pressures or energy based off of who it is that you're talking to and where it is. And she said, gauge yourself. You might not be in a mood where like you're ready. Like maybe something shitty happened with like you going after your goals. Maybe like you didn't get the property. That happened to us. Like we had a couple properties where like, this is the one. It didn't go through. Like you're going to fail along the way. There's failures that happen. It sucks ass. You don't want to talk about it that day. If there's sometimes it happens that day and you don't want to talk about it. Maybe you just got out of work or you just got off of doing this thing or something just fell through. And it's like just not the time to share your vision because you're not excited about it. Even though like that's your thing and like you're going to do that thing still. You haven't given up on it. Sometimes it's still like that's not the time, right? So maybe the audience is right, but you're not right. Or vice versa. Maybe you're all pumped up. You're like, I'm fucking all about it. Like some awesome shit. I just got my property. I'm going to tell the world. I'm pumped up about it. Like next week, Meg and I are going to get a lot louder than we ever have been because now we're more confident that it's a real tangible thing. That's why we're sharing it more than we usually do, where we're going to actually have drone footage and like a walkthrough and like really put out some videos to show exactly what we're doing because now we're doing an action in the thing that's part of the vision and like that we want to share with you. But in there, it's like how you gauge the room, gauge yourself. The room could be awesome creatives like you guys out there, business owners like you, where you're people that I bet, you know, on this podcast, I obviously share, but like if we were to talk in a gas station or something, I could talk to you and be like, and you'd be like, I fucking get it. That's a great idea or it's a bad idea. And, you know, I see how it's possible or not possible. We can really jam on what that vision is and like how that happens. And like, I love conversations like that. When some of you, I chat on Instagram DM like all the time like this. We talk about what's happening and we both get each other because we know what is and isn't possible. But you could be all jazzed up. You could be in a room full of people that are going to just shit on you. You could be super uber confident and then you could go into a room of people that just don't think that that's possible or it doesn't exist to them or they're just so unaware. They honestly might also just not want to hear it. They might not want to like believe that you're doing that well or doing something that's alternative, like that challenges them. That's a lot of time what's happening when you're getting negative kickback from friends or family when you're talking about your vision. It's challenging them. And you don't even know that. You don't perceive it that way because you're just talking about something that you're doing. Sometimes it's challenging someone. That's why you get a negative response because they don't want to believe that there's another way that they could or could not do something. And it's frustrating to them because they feel like they're unable to control to do that as well or to do something different than what they do. And it's frustrating, it's challenging them. That's sometimes why you get a negative reaction. So just know that. Like you have to really just be self-aware and then like think about that person in their shoes of like, why are they doing the thing that they're doing? It's almost always a why of like, why is this action happening? Why is this person doing that? Gauge your room, gauge yourself. And a great way that I've kind of learned, I've mentioned it a million times, but check out on my Instagram page at Dave Wake Up. There is a comic that I had Craig Holland Art do for me, like about like going to a barbecue, because this is like where I felt it all the time. Like you're at like some type of friend or some type of family like connection. The people kind of know you, they kind of know what you're up to, and those are the places where I'd get like just the harshest, shittiest feelings when I tried to share my vision, because it'd be a big mix of people that I've really valued and weighed their opinions, and I'd be sharing something that is very important to me, and I'd share too personal. And this is where I got really good at this. I have worked a bunch of sales jobs for my day jobs. And one thing, if you've ever worked sales before, that they talk about are trial closes. So a trial close is you're trying to gauge along the conversation if the person is willing to buy that, essentially. You're saying, like, does that sound good to you? Like, is that something that you wanted to go with? Like, what were you thinking on that? Like, where would you put that? Like, you're trying to figure out, like, is this person want to buy this thing that I'm selling, right? A trial close. So like a trial close, let's take like, cause I do audio recording. A trial close would be like, if I've talked to an artist and they're like, hey, yeah, I would love to record with you someday. And a trial close might be like, yeah, man, I would love to work with you. Like, when would you want to do that? And if they're like, oh, no, like, I don't know when, I'm not writing right now, blah, blah, blah. Or if they're like, oh, actually, I'm working on the single right now. Like, how's like November look? And then if I was like, how about let's do second weekend in November? That would be a try. I'm trying to see, is this going to happen or not? that's all a trial close is like, is there an action that's going to happen or not? You're trying to figure out which way it's going to go. Is this something that's not ready for me to be taking action on yet? Or is this something that an action is supposed to happen? Am I supposed to spur that action? That's what a trial close is. Okay, so if you haven't worked sales, if you work sales, you probably know what that is. The reason why I talk about all that shit to you is because I have learned with that skill, almost like a trial vision discussion. As ridiculous as that sounds, try it. But it's like putting out little breadcrumbs of what your vision is to gauge the room to see like what type of people am I in front of, and then that's going to dictate like what conversation I want to have. Because I'll get into it later. There's some things that like fundamentally like part of me, part of who I am, part of what I'm going to say, like no matter what anyone has to say, I'm going to say I'm going to do this thing or I do this thing. No matter what you say, this is always a thing that's a constant of me. But the details and like what types of conversations I'm adding in past that and all these other things, like those are really going to like change with each audience that I'm in. And so like a trial discussion of it, like what's that look like? So let's say I'm like invited to a Christmas party or like a cookout or like some vibe like that where it's like, that's the first time you're there, right? Like you've never been to that one. Like it's a new group of people. They still kind of matter to you, but like it's someone's friend's cookout or whatever. You're invited to that. You don't know those people. You don't know your audience yet. And say you're in the middle, right? Like in terms of like gauging yourself, you're in the middle right there. You're not super amped up. You're not negative either. You're like, I'm fine. Like I'm here like to have the barbecue. I'm cool with this. I'm happy with this. Cool with my vision. Still planning the same shit, right? You don't want to get negative pressure or negative energy from those people, but like maybe you'll get good networking or like good traction or customers or like good things are going to happen if you share it. Like there's good and bad that can happen whenever you're sharing a vision, right? So it's like, we don't know what's going to happen here. So you need to try and figure out how are they going to react to this before I share the whole story here, right? So I might come in and I might like, hey, what's up? It's me, like same common talk, like, yeah, blah, blah, blah. Like, oh, what do you do for like, that's why I made the comic. What do you do for work? That always comes up. That's why I made the comic of like what happens in a barbecue entirely. Cause of that one question. That's where I'm going to kind of gauge it. Cause right now, like I have a full-time job, but like, I don't really like it. Right. So it's not my focus. So it's not my focus of conversation ever. Like whenever people want to talk about it, I shut the conversation down as quick as possible because I just don't give a shit about it. It's not entertaining to me. It doesn't matter to me. And I want people to know that it's not my thing to talk about much. So like I will if they want to go there, but I'll say things like, yeah, like full time I do this, but I'm working to do this. And maybe I'm not going to say working to do a full-time audio recording studio with live-in quarters for artists and an Airbnb with an experience that allows people to record from a mobile, like there's so much shit that I'm working on. I'm not going to just throw that out there with everyone. It doesn't make sense to do that. So I might say like, yeah, I work full time, but I went to school for audio. So I'm working on doing that. I do that nights and weekends right now. And I'm working on doing that full time. And I might leave it at that. Or I might say like, if I'm really feeling it, I might be like, I am all about music. I got my degrees in music and I do that. And I also work a day job, obviously. Right now, I'm not at the point where I can do it full time, but that's what I'm working on. I might say things like that and then vibe it out. Like if someone's like, I'll get pieces that make it feel like it's supposed to go more, or I'll get pieces where I know that it's shut down like literally right away and I need to not talk about it because I'm going to get negative shit. So like someone might, like as an example, they might be like, oh, no shit, really? Like I'm a drummer. Like that's awesome that you work on that. Like blah, blah, blah. Now I'm getting positive vibes. I'm getting like, okay, this person is engaged with it. They're pro me. Like they vote for Dave, right? So I'm like, okay, cool. Yeah, no. So I'm going to, dude, no doubt I'm renovating and then I'll go right into it. Like, yeah, fucking, I'm doing this. And they're like, holy shit, you didn't say that, blah, blah, blah. And you're like, well, yeah, I didn't know if you're going to be a dick to me or not. And you were going to like push me, I didn't know if you're going to support me or not. Like, so when you start feeling that was like your trial vision discussion. Like I'm trying out to see, are you going to be the person that's going to give me positive or negative? And I'm going to control that. The reason being is because I'm sure some of you know, doing whatever it is that you're working on, when you give what your long-term vision is to the wrong crowd, it sucks for everyone. Sucks for them because they feel either challenged or they feel awkward. They don't know what to say, so that sucks. Sucks for you because you have someone either doubting you or they're telling you why you can't do it or they're discouraging you. Like, it's just going to go negative from there. They're going to tell other people, like, if they really care about you, they sometimes will tell other people to try to influence you to be like, hey, you really shouldn't do that. Like, it's too risky. Financially, it's not a good decision. Like, let's get something more reliable. Let's do something, whatever. You know what I mean? It's just going to go downhill. And then pressure-wise, you're putting pressure back on yourself. So it's like, none of it is going to be a good situation. And that's why I am kind of on an episode for just this purpose, because I think it's really important who you share it with. Flip side of it, you get those people that are positive. You start going down the rabbit hole. Yeah, this is exactly what I'm doing. Here's the plan, blah, blah, blah. And they're super into it. You might get a customer out of them. Maybe they want to do and engage with the things with you because they've started to trust you. They're cool with you. Maybe they want to engage with your services. You might get a network connection out of them where they are like, oh, my cousin Chucky does this thing or whatever. And then all of a sudden you link up with someone else, and networking is fucking awesome. And I encourage everyone to do it in real life. Like, go meet these people and just opportunities happen. It's crazy. It's like exactly what's always been happening, but it's like a very old school way of doing it. But word of mouth and networking is crazy. So maybe you're going to get these opportunities from this person because you shared it. Worst case scenario, you have someone advocating for you, trying to open up doors for you instead of trying to shut them. And the more people that you can have to do that in the world, the better your chances are, because you want people to run in that herd with you. You want people to want you to win. And it's going to help you when you're, tired or you're stressed about it or you're being negative about it yourself. People are going to be there to open a door for you or say, well, if you can't do this thing, how about this thing? And how about this person that I know, or this way of doing that, or what? Like, people running in your direction, you want them on your team. The people who are going to not be on your team anyway, you want to just shut that door as fast as possible and get them out of there. And that's what a trial discussion of like what it is that you're doing is helpful. So like, definitely recommend doing that. I didn't do that at first. I got battered for a couple of years, like for years and years, actually. For a while, I don't think I learned that, and I would just share it. And it just builds up. It's really tough to just sit there and get slammed by that and just like stay through it of like, I'm going to do this thing. So I've learned over time here to really manage who am I sharing this with, but like more so, what depth am I going to share it? Because I think it's important to have a basic long-term vision for everyone, no matter what. And I think that should be something that you share with everyone. And it doesn't have to be risky. It can be really simple. It can be like, I want to do this thing, or I want to be able to provide this experience or share this thing. And you need kind of like a compass thing that people think of you as, so that way, say people doubted my vision or they're doubting what I do, at least they're still going to know he's a recording guy or he's a music guy. He does it on the side. He does this, whatever. Even if they doubt whatever my long-term vision is, they still know that that's an important enough piece of me that I'm sharing it all the time. I don't really care what they think of me, if they think that it's not going to happen or not, but I do want them to still know that that's a piece of me. So I think it's important to have a basic elevator pitch, short, long-term vision of like, what is the thing that you say no matter what? You've said it always. You've always wanted to do that thing. It's okay if you don't know what that thing is, but I'm just saying that a long-term vision, something that you say in every instance, is a great thing. Like repetition of that's great. That's going to help you manifest it. But I also think that you need to just manage the pressure and energy that you get from those responses through time the best that you can. And the only way you can do that is with self-awareness. And that comes to, okay, what do I personally need? Self-awareness wise, what do I personally need? I, Dave Swillum, I perform better under pressure. I need pressure. I need people to doubt me and hate on me. I need people to put deadlines on me. I need things to happen at a quick pace. I need to feel pressure. I can't be just chill and just like wait for things to happen. Like, it bothers the shit out of me, and like I get weird about it. I have to have things that put me at like a performance thing. I need the pressure. Pressure is good for me. almost all the time. Actually, it's kind of crazy. Pressure is almost always good for me, and I know that, which is why I think I share my vision more, kind of even like to get aroused from people. Like I want people to throw the fruit and vegetables on stage at me, you know? Like when I was training for my marathon, I would purposely, like, you know, some people would be like, I really want to train on like these quiet roads and whatever. I would almost always train on main roads because I wanted to go and have that many cars making a judgment on me, and that would like either piss me off or pump me up, and either way it would make me like run better because like I had that many people putting pressure on me. I had pressure on me to succeed. Sometimes that pressure, depending on who you are, is bad, and you just need to not have eyes on the court for when you're trying to do what you're trying to do and be left alone to execute. Like you still need to take action no matter what, but like sometimes pressure can be really bad for you. And if you're that type of person, then you don't want to tell people that are going to start being like, when is this happening? Like, what are you doing with that? Like, oh, is that not working? Like, and just ask. I'm fine with most of the time getting hit with those questions, and it fuels me because I'm like, oh, fuck, I really do need to do that. There's some people where it's going to stop you, and I don't want you to get stopped. So managing the pressure and then managing the energy is like, you know, I get energy when people are pumped up about it, being like, that's an amazing idea. Like, that's going to be awesome. Oh man, I wish I could do that. I would love to do that. Like whatever, like that positive piece of it where they're engaged on it. And then they talk about it being like, oh man, my friend is doing this thing or blah, blah, blah. And they're sharing on it. Like that energy is great. There's also negative energy that you can get from it too, where people are discounting it. They're saying that's not possible. You can never do it. Financially, it won't work out. Like then you start to self-doubt. So managing the pressures and the energy based off of who you are as a person. And last, because I don't want these solo ones to go too long, and I actually have reached longer than I thought I would be on this one, but I really got into it. Last is, now you figured out who your audience is when you're talking about it. You're talking about the right amount, the right steps of like what your vision is and what you're trying to do with them. Then I want to talk about, just real quick, also manage where you have those conversations with those groups, because I've noticed sometimes when I find my crew of like, I can share everything about my vision with these people, they totally get it. We can talk business, we can talk music, we can talk creative, we can talk whatever all day long, and no one's going to judge anyone because we're all like, we get it, all that's possible, 100%. And we'll give each other constructive yes or no of like, no, this isn't a good idea, this is, whatever. When you find those people, it is awesome. If you don't have that group of people doing exactly the same type of things that you're doing, like even if it's just other small business people or other musicians or other artists or whatever it is that you're trying to do, generally what you're doing, if you don't have that group, you need to find them, because I would say that it's really hard to do any of these things that I'm talking about if you don't have something to balance it off of, like a group that you can always actually bounce the real ideas off of like, now it's not like a judgment thing, it's literally like an execution thing of like, does this work or does this not work, right? Say you found that group, I have to be careful now where I'm really friends with some of those people, or all of them really. I'm good friends with them. I also need to make sure that I'm doing some things that, like, here's a great example. Meg and I, as a husband and wife, do a lot of things that are business together in the real estate portion. And obviously she has a choice in everything that I'm doing with my business. Her or other friends of mine that are running businesses that I get coffee with and talk about this stuff with, there are also times to not talk about certain things. Like you can't always talk about things, even though I enjoy business, I enjoy creating, I enjoy music and audio, and like, but I can't only talk about that. Even with the people that want to hear about it, sometimes I just need to be like, hey, how's running going? What's your favorite beer? What's your, like, the simple, very simple things. Sometimes when you find your crew that can talk with you about that, you're so excited about it, but also like you have to remember that it's still a relationship. And I don't know if this is just a me thing, but like sometimes I'll lock in. I just want to talk about that. I'm so excited about it. I love that stuff, but like there's also a time and a place to do that. And I found that it's very helpful for me to organize those times where I organize a phone call or a section of that conversation or phone call. And I'll pick times with people where I'm like, hey, I want to talk shop and just like talk about this shit. and just see what you're facing and whatever. And they know that that's going to happen there. But then there's also sections of the conversation where I've pushed it away from there. And in that conversation, maybe I'm just talking about how people's lives are. I'm just talking about a certain thing. So I'm going to wrap this up here. I hope that this was helpful for you. I really believe that it's really helpful to know when and where and who to share your vision with, so that way you're manifesting it and making it happen. You're putting pressure and energy into what it is that you're trying to do as a long-term goal here, but you're also not putting things in your way or getting the wrong team around you to stop it in some way if it's not supposed to be stopped. So I hope that was helpful for you. And if you want, I'm going to be putting a lot of this probably on the website. I might make a piece of the website just for like what we're doing in renovations and shit, so you can see what we're up to. But Meg and I are going to actually be putting a big effort into our YouTube channel of sharing some videos. We haven't decided if it's going to be like bi-weekly or weekly throughout all the renovations on this property that we are getting into in a couple weeks here. But we're planning on showing like literally everything, like the things that we run into in construction, in zoning, in finances, like where we're getting income, where we're spending our money, just everything that I can think of. If you guys have anything along the way through this, I'm going to leave it super, super open to be the most real with you that I can, so that way if anyone's trying to get a home business opened up, or like do something and operate it out of a certain space, or do some of these things that I'm learning right now every day how to do these things. And I'm learning stuff that sucks and stuff that is working right. And I'm going to share it with you guys. So really excited to have that. Really excited for the people that get to come to this and be a part of it with me at that location. And for all of you that have been engaging with me online on Instagram and everything along the way. So thank you guys for listening to episode 77 of the Waking Up From Work podcast. Really look forward to getting some of those announcements to you guys next week as they go, and checking out what you guys are up to and what you're building and what your vision is. If you guys want to hit me up and let me know what you're working on, always happy to talk to people through Instagram DM at Dave Wake Up, or the website wakingupfromwork.com. We like to talk with you people and see what you're up to. Thank you guys. Have a good night.